Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to Indonesia-Cambodia Youth Initiative Program. Welcome to the 8th webinar session with the topic is the assurance of legality, security, protection, and welfare of social workers in Indonesia and Cambodia. First of all, I would like to thank you very much to all the speakers who will join in this webinar session. There are three speakers come from Indonesia and also come from Canada. The guest speakers come from Cambodia, Mr. Katakun, and Cambodian speakers he is Mr. Sopa, and Indonesian speaker Mr. Julia Ken. And then I'd like to inform you about our agenda for this webinar session. The first, we will listen the opening remarks from the Ruang International representative. She is Miss Paul Syahla Abda Fiota as the Human Resource Manager of Ruang International Indonesia. And also, the second, we will enter to the moderator and speaker introduction session, and will be led by Master of Ceremony. And then the next agenda, we will enter to the webinar session or the presentation time and deliver the some point of view from all the speakers. And this will be led by the moderator today. And we will taking know more about the after this. And then we have interaction session along 10 minutes every after speakers finishing the session. And also we have the Q&A session, question and answer session in the end of this webinar along 15 minutes. And you all guys, all participants can ask directly to the speakers who you want to ask. And then in the end of the webinar also we will have a session together. So please stay in this room until the end of the webinar finish. Okay, I think we will enter to the first agenda. But first of all, I also to thank you very much all the participants, both Indonesia participants and maybe Cambodian participants who joined us in this webinar session. We also we so really appreciate you all guys for your time to join this webinar session. And hope you all enjoy our webinar session. And after this, I invite to Miss Tifal Shahla Abdulata as the Human Resource Manager of Raw International to deliver their opening remarks. Thank you. To Ms. Tifal, time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much to Mr. MC, Mr. Jenly. Okay, thank you so much for having me here. And I'd like to give some words, some speech of mine as as the representation of Raw International Chapter Indonesia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia-Cambodian Youth Initiative Program, or ICYIP, is an international program covering two countries between Indonesia and Cambodia to increase youth awareness of domestic issues in each country, as well as regional issues within the Southeast Asian region. This program also aims to increase interaction and communication and also open opportunities for collaboration among youth, strengthening youth partnerships and networks, and discussion, exchange of knowledge, exchange of information, and share experiences between the youth of the two countries. As we are now in the eighth session with the topic The Future of Assurance of Legality, Security, Protection, and Welfare of Social Workers in Indonesia and Cambodia. And I'm sorry for Mr. MC, I'd like to stop first because of the sound of the asthma. I will continue first. Okay, thank you so much, and I'm so sorry for the interruption because it's the prayer time in Indonesia. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we are now in the eighth session with the topic the future of assurance of legality, security, protection, and welfare of social workers in Indonesia and in Cambodia. And this program is expected to be the answer to every domestic and regional problem faced by the two countries, especially during the pandemic of COVID-19. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, social worker has the important role to build the sustainable development, prosperity, and welfare in society. And the social workers contributes to real action to serve professionally, directly, and sustainably to prevent social dysfunction and give the best service to protect society as well as empower the society. In the term of to optimize the future of assurance of legality, security, protection, and welfare of social workers in these two countries. This program is expected to be the answer as we especially during the pandemic of COVID-19, on the responsibility of the years to issues that developed in their respective countries. Indonesia and Cambodian youth are directed to be able to become agents of change and problem solving on every issue that occurs at the demonstration and regional levels. And as we know, we want international as the youth organization to humanize and empower youth to be critical, creative, and active in applying and developing their abilities to be able to play a role and contribute in the midst of a good global society. Again and again, I'd like to welcome to our speakers for today, Mr. Panit Ketakun, Mr. Penny Sofa, and Mr. Joliakin Sembering as our speakers today. And I do believe that we as the youth, we can make a better change for the better world in the future. Thank you so much for your attention. And I'd like to give the floor back to the MC, Mr. Jam.
Okay, thank you very much for your opening remarks for us in this webinar session. So we continue our agenda. The next session, we will um, introduce our moderator today. Yeah, she is Miss Aprilia Damarani. Um, okay, welcome Miss Aprilia. Miss Aprilia Damarani as the Public Relations Manager of Ruang International Indonesia. And also now she's as the bachelor student in Communication Science at Universitas Kristen Indonesia or Christian University of Indonesia. And also in 2021, this year, she worthy of the International Credit Transfer Scholarship from Ministry of Education, Culture, and Research and Technology of Republic of Indonesia. And also, she is the international student at Ateneo de Manila University, Philippines, in Philippines. So I think that's all from the moderator introduction to Miss Aprilia. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Janli, as MC, and I would like to say thank you to everyone to attend this webinar and to our speakers to attend this webinar also. And before we start the webinar, I would like to introduce our speaker. There is has three speakers here. And in Indonesia, we call it tak kenal maka tak sayang. It means if we don't know each other we have not to love to each other. Okay. Okay. Here we go. For the first speakers, he is a Jainit Katakund. Yeah, he's from Cambodia. He has a business administration dual degree graduate from the American University of Phnom Penh and the University of Arizona. And he also is a business development executive at DFDL Cambodia and as a founder of Kunbook also. And he is a researcher at Facebook Circular Digital Lab Cambodia and also a co-founding member of the UA alumni chapter. And hello, Mr. Danny Kavikin, how are you?
Hello everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm currently doing great, and I hope the same is for all of you as well.
Okay, thank you. We will move to the second speakers. Okay, for the second speakers here we have Indonesian speaker. He is Juliakin Sambiring. He is an international relations researcher at Ruang International Young Thinkers Association, and he also bachelor's student in international relations at Universitas Kristen Indonesia. And he also a students research division at International Relations Student Association. Hello, Mr. Julaikin Sembering. How are you?
Hello, Miss. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then for the last, we will move to the third speakers here. We have a speakers from Cambodian. He is a Mr. Pangli Sopa. He is a former executive past debate club in PNC, and he is the third runner-up member of National Youth Debate 2021 by Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport. And he is also a bachelor student in international relations at Panasastra University of Cambodia. Hello, Mr. Sopa.
Hello, Ms. Moderator. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here with all you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. And guys, here we go. We will start our webinar. And for the first, we will hear the presentation for the first speakers. Is from our guest speakers. He is a Penny Catecan. Mr. Penny Catecan, time is yours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I will share the screen now. Give me 1 second. I think there's some technical difficulty. Do you mind sharing the slide for me instead? Okay, yes, that would do.
Okay, could you see that screen?
Yes. Okay, so since that is solved now, I will start my sharing session now. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and I hope that you are all doing well, whether you are in Cambodia, Indonesia, or other nations. And just to introduce myself a bit again, my name is Panakitikun, and I'm currently a business development executive for the DFDL Cambodia, and also involved in various positions as the moderator has mentioned earlier too. So the topic of my presentation today will be about the core values, essentiality, and challenges of social worker in Cambodia. So can you move to the next slide? Okay, so here are the table of content for today. So first of all, I will talk about what are social worker and what are not social worker. And the next one will be some examples of what are considered as social worker. And the next agenda will be about the core values of social worker. Do you mind moving to the next slide? And the fourth point will be about the essentiality of social worker, and the fifth one will be about the challenges of social worker, and last but not least, it will be about what we can help social worker. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we go into all the detail that I stated in the table of content earlier, it's very essential and crucial for us to know the definition of social work. So according to the International Federation of Social Workers, social work is defined as a practice-based profession and an academic discipline that promotes social change and development, social cohesion, and the empowerment and liberation of people. So yeah, so here's the definition in which you can see in the slide as well. Can you move to the next slide? Okay, so here we will talk about the first point on my table of content. So what are considered a social worker? I think some of us still are hesitant or do not have a full understanding about what are considered a social worker. So first and foremost, social worker are those professionals who have practical experiences in their field. Let's say, for example, people who work in the front line, like doctor, nurse, etc., they would be considered a social worker because they have the experiences of working there before, and this link to the next point, which is they also have completed degree in the relevant field. So basically, you can get a bachelor degree in social work or even a master degree in social work and also other relevant fields as well. This will help you to have the necessary qualification to be considered as a social worker. And the third important point of the qualification of social worker is that they have to fulfill certain fieldwork requirement before they become qualified. So let's say, for example, if you want to become a social worker for mental health related services, so you need to complete field work at the mental health hospital or any consultant place related to mental health first in order for you to be qualified. Next slide, please. Okay, so once we understand what are the qualification and elements for a social worker, here are the point that social worker are not known to be. So first of all, we should not like confuse between the term social worker and social works, because sometimes when we say that we are doing social work like volunteerism, people tend to think, oh, I am a social worker too because I do voluntary work. Let's say I organize events and so on. However, this is such a big misunderstanding, because just because now you do voluntary work, let's say I'm doing logistic or flow for the event, for a social event, this does not qualify you as a social worker at all. And this also linked to the second point, which social worker are not under social organization. So let's say I myself used to be in social organization, let's say ABC. So in that case, I am not a social worker, but I'm just like a volunteer or member under the organization. So this is a point that we should differentiate between social organization and people who work in the social work field too. And the third point that are not relevant to social worker is some people tend to think that, okay, social worker would like do work in the office like typical employees. However, according to my research, social worker tend to go for field work and tend to visit people outside the office, and they do not really work in the office all day long like some of us might think. So yep, that's it. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I provide one or two examples of social workers. So this slide will focus on the main example that we can think of. So first and foremost, during COVID, we will think about social workers as those who are working in the front line, like doctor, and also like nurses, etc. Like those people are the really main factor that help us during COVID-19 season. And another example of social worker as school counselor. So it's very important because school counselor, they tend to like provide advice and counseling to, let's say, children who are struggling with their studies or emotional issues. So in this case, they would be qualified as social worker too. And another example would be people who are working in the nursing home. So since social worker are those who help people in the society and help solving the issue, and people who are working in nursing home are those who like help the elderly, especially when they are sick or they need assistance or anything. And other example would be like people who work in the mental health institute, like providing consultation and like assistance, and also like people who provide consultation related to alcoholism and also like child abuse and so on. These are just like some example of like all the social worker out there. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, so here is the first main point of social worker that I will talk about, as stated in my presentation title. So this one is about core value. So some of us might know like, okay, social worker tend to do this and this and this ABC task, but what are their core value? Like So this can be applicable in Cambodia and also other nations around the world as well. So first and foremost, their core value is to provide compassionate services to those who are in need. Let's say, for example, a doctor would, their core value is to provide compassionate services to their patient, or let's say like during COVID-19, the doctor and nurses will provide like compassionate and caring services to those patients who are suffering from COVID-19. So that is their core value and mission to achieve as social worker. And the next one will be providing social justice. So social justice can vary depending on their concentration. Let's say social worker who are working at mental health institution, they would provide social justice to raise awareness on mental health and solving issues that are related to like mental health problem and so on. And why for, let's say, people who work against like, alcoholism and also like child abuse, they would provide social justice like to alleviate the problem of abuse and like alcoholism that exists in the patient or people who ask for consultation. Yeah. And another core value is that they help be a strong human relationship between all the individuals out there, because this is something that we might overlook, like social worker are those who help create the bonds between humans. Let's say, for example, let's say people who actually need help, need consultation, they will come to social worker and they will help solve the problem. So once the problem is alleviated, it will foster a stronger relationship between the patient and other people. So these are the three main core value of social workers. Next slide, please. Okay, so after we know like what are their value, it is also crucial to understand why are they considered essential in our society, especially during this adverse time. So first and foremost, we all know that social workers tend to provide well-being for the community, whether it's about like health or about like anti-abuse or like peace and so on. They are the main factor, the main power that actually help all us to achieve this cumulative well-being. And the next point is that whenever you need like emergency, let's say for example, so people who are diagnosed with COVID-19, they need to rush to the hospital. So basically, the social worker or frontline worker are those who are dealing with the emergency needs. And another point is that they are also important because in most career of social work, they tend to provide the emotional and mental support to the patient and those who are in need. Let's say if you need to alleviate your alcoholism or let's say abuse within your family, those are the people that will seek out to social worker to help like make the emotional state much better. So these are the three main reasons why we consider the social workers as very important and crucial to our society, whether it's in Cambodia, Indonesia, or like other nations all around the world. Next slide, please. Okay, so beside all the essentiality and like their core value stuff and stuff, we also need to know the challenges that all type of social worker tend to face, especially during this challenging time. So first and foremost, it is well aware that social worker tend to handle tough issues, and they also need to make difficult decisions. So let's say an example of tough issue that we can see is like dealing with countless cases of like COVID-19 patients, and they actually have to deal this on a daily basis. And sometimes they need to like make very difficult choices on whether to save person A or person B or person C. So this it's considered as a daily challenge that social worker face that sometimes we tend to overlook. And this leads to the second point, which is social worker also work under like unpredictability and also like situation that they cannot really foresee. So it's not like in the office that we go to work from 8 and then we go out of the office at 5 p.m. It's not always like that. And for social worker, sometimes they do not know what is weekend, or sometimes they work all day, all night. As we can see in the current time, like frontline worker, they even sometimes almost work for 24/7 just to ensure community well-being and also like alleviate the COVID problem in our society. So there is another challenge that they face. And the third point is, of course, like emotional and mental burnout. Considering that they have to provide emotional support to other people, sometimes they have to put themselves as the last priority in order to ensure the well-being of those people. And this can lead to like turmoil and stress that they face internally and emotionally. So this is another major challenge that they tend to face as social workers. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so here is the point that us as citizens can play a role to help social worker. So the first and most important point is that we can be cautious and responsible for our daily action. So let's say, for example, like I, as citizen, I decide not to go out or like go to party during COVID-19. So by doing that, I already play a role to be responsible and be cautious of my own action so that I can play a little bit, like let's say, even if it's not big, but also like some small contribution to help alleviate the workload that social worker might have. And the second point that we can have all the social worker out there is to treat them with kindness and treat them nicely, because they have deal with all the challenging, difficult situation all days, all night. And sometimes if we try to treat them nice, let's say like we see them, we try to like provide encouraging word, or let's say show kind gesture to them, it can brighten up their day and it can make their day much less stressful. And another point is that we can work hand in hand with social worker. So what do I mean by that? Okay, basically, let's say if you are, okay, for example, let's say if you are a medical student and you are in your, let's say, third, fourth, or fifth year, and then you want to like intern or like do an internship or like help the social worker. So that is one way that you can work hand in hand to alleviate their workload. And another point is that you can also work hand in hand by like be a responsible citizen, like similar to what I say in the first one about be cautious and be responsible. If you like not cause trouble to yourself and other people that might lead to a consultation or help from social worker, you already did your part in work hand in hand to help all the social worker out there. So this sum up pretty much of my presentation. I try to keep it short so that like if there are any further question or inquiry, I will try to answer it during the presentation. So before I end this, I would like to leave one of the quote that I really love when it comes to like social work. So this quote is from Mr. Jordan B. Hinckley. So he stated that the happiest people I know are those who lose themselves in the service of others. And I definitely agree with that, because sometimes like we don't really see the happiness visibly, but if they are trying to help their people and like provide kind services to other to like ensure the well-being in our society and community, they are already happy the way they are. And here are my contact like Facebook, Instagram, and email in case you want to contact me after the presentation and so on. So thank you for your attention and interest, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation to Mr. Katekun. That was wonderful for me. Yeah, it's more like our Yeah, it's to add my knowledge first. And yeah, from this presentation, I give one. In social workers, it's really difficult, right? It has a challenge like for this presentation is the first is tough issues and decisions, and then the second is unpredictable work situations, and the third is also emotional burnout. And sometimes they have to put them to another self, right? Yeah, it's not really easy for us. And one important I like the quotes that you have is the happiest people I know are those who lose themselves in the service of others. I mean, like, try to help to each other, and it will be like more happiness for us, right? And then
Indeed.
we will, yeah, and then we will move to question. Yeah, to all participants, there is have a question. Okay, all right. We have one participant, one question.
Okay. Let me read
Yeah,
the question.
he's from Albert Nijon.
How about the imbalance of the government rewards or the
Yeah.
imbalance of the of salary income basic cost to all social worker? Is it fair for all? How about the informal social worker that are not registered or reported? Is still can mention as the part of social worker? Okay, I would say that's a very insightful question. So to answer it step by step, okay, but to just to get a heads up, like I can like I'm not like an certified social worker myself, so I just try to provide an answer by putting myself in the social worker shoes. So to answer the first point, okay, um, I would say that this problem is quite visible in Cambodia because let's say during this at let's say during this difficult time, sometimes there are like imbalance when it comes to reward and also like let's say salary because social worker have to work overtime, especially like let's say frontline worker they tend to work for way longer than they are expected. So there is of course like a visible imbalance because their main priority is to save the people, and sometimes we might like the government and the relevant party might not pay enough attention to like focus on that factor because as I said earlier, like we're trying to save the people first. So this issue is I would say it's quite visible based on my observation in my country. And again, like since they're already an imbalance, I would say it's not really fair for all of them. However, like at this stage, I think most of the social worker might not like care too much about like being fair or unfair, in my opinion, because again, like we're trying to like save the patient first, and let's say the rewards will come later on because as I said earlier, like their main priority is to save people. But again, this is just an example that I choose for frontline worker. Let's say for other part of social work, like let's say like people who have a mental health issue and also like alcoholism, abuse, and so on, that might be viewed differently. But I decided to choose this because it is the most visible type of social work that we see in Cambodia during this difficult time. And for the social worker that are considered informal, I would say that um, again, like since Cambodia is not really well developed when it comes to social work, some people who like do the same job as social worker, but they are not registered to consider as the official member or official like or they are not certified enough. So again, there might be some unfairness because like they are not like seen clearly by the public as social work, even though they do the same work as like the certified social worker. So I think it's a matter of time. Like let's say once the situation get better and the registration and the certification process will be done for all of them, I think this situation will be alleviated or like eliminate like in the later time. So that would be my stance on this question. I hope that my response will answer what you want to ask. Okay, the next one would be, I want to ask if we work for an NGO as volunteer or work for our own, but no any remark paper. So what we can consider them. NGO volunteer. I would say so it's like the universal definition of social worker are those who like, let's say, have the degree relevant to the field. Let's say you finish a bachelor work or in social science or in medical field if you are being a frontline worker or like a doctor and so on. And you also need to complete the field work that is necessary to be part of the certification process, and you also like need to work full time as well. So in terms of volunteer, I would say instead of considering ourselves, so I choose ourselves as like the volunteer. So instead of considering ourselves as like official social worker, we can consider ourselves as those who like play a hand-in-hand role with the social worker, because I think this can be considered as part of the required field work or like a step-by-step process before you can later on become a certified social worker. So yeah, in this case, I would consider as volunteer or people who work hand in hand to help the social worker out there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pranit, for the answer, and I hope it will answer the question from Albert Najuan and also from Mr. Strayrod.
Okay. Thank you. And if there are any questions, you can save it for the Q&A session. And
Yeah, to all
try to-
participants. And
Yeah.
to all participants, if you have a more question, you could add media social, Mr. Pranit, right?
Yes. Just pointing one thing. You can call me Katikun
Oh
because
yeah.
yeah, that's okay. I understand that.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Katikon, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
We will move to the second. Okay, thank you. And we will move to the second speakers. He is from Indonesia, Indonesian speaker. Okay, Mr. Juliakin. Hello, Mr. Juliakin. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm great too. Thank you. Are you
Thank you.
ready to this
I'm
presentation?
I am a little bit nervous, but I'm gonna try my best.
Okay, God bless. And time is yours.
Yes, thank you. For Mr. Jenly, would you like to help me to share screen?
Okay. Wait a moment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jenly, and thank you for the speakers who have wait about little minute to wait my presentation. First, I would like to greet all of us. Good afternoon and happy Sunday to all of us. I would like to introduce myself again. My name is Julia Ginsmiring. I'm a student at Christian University of Indonesia, mentoring in international relations. At the first, I would like to tell us that this is the first time for me to be the speaker in international webinar like this one. So I do apologize if there will be many mistakes or error or shortcomings in my presentation. And also, I don't forget to be thankful for Ruang International and Mr. Gianli, who has entrusting me to be the speaker in this webinar. And then today, we will talk about the social workers in Indonesia and Cambodia. But I will especially for me, I will tell about the social worker in Indonesia. As we know that from the first speaker, from Mr. Ketikun, that social workers is very essential, is very important in a country like Indonesia and like Cambodia. We know that in order to prevent the dysfunctional role of the government, we can use the power of social worker to make what government want to in order to prevent the dysfunctional role of our government. Indonesia is a low country. That's why everything must be regulated in constitution. Everything must be regulated in law. It's same with the social worker. Indonesia also regulated about the social worker in their constitution. It is in law number 14, 2019. Next slide, please. Okay, it is actually it is Indonesian language. It is the Constitution number 14, 2019 about the social worker in Indonesia. Next slide. Okay, is there any problem about my slide? Because I see in chat group, one of our friend cannot see the presentation. Can you see my presentation, Miss Aprilia?
Yeah, I could see that presentation.
Okay, I will continue my presentation. Next, I think we have heard about the definition about social worker from first speaker, but I will tell us about the social speaker from according to Constitution of Indonesia. According to the law number 14, 2019 that I have told you that a social worker is someone who has the knowledge, skills, and values of social work, practice, and has obtained a certificate of competence. But to be a social worker, we have to pass the certificate of competence. Certificate of competence is a letter of legal acknowledgement of the competence of social workers to be able to practice throughout Indonesia after passing the competency test. Next slide. In this slide, in this constitution, we can also find that Indonesian government has regulated about the principle of social worker. According to this constitution, there are several principles of social workers. The first one is non-discriminatory, and the second solidarity, and the third justice, professionalism, benefit, cohesiveness, and then partnership, accessibility, and then accountability. Here are the several of social worker principle in Indonesia. Next slide. Okay, I think that Indonesian government has struggled to make the social worker to make the existence of social worker in Indonesia can run well, because Indonesian government has struggled in this constitution to regulate about the goals. What are the goals of the social worker? We can see that the first one, the goal is to prevent the occurrence of the social dysfunction of individuals, families, groups, and communities. B, restore and improve the social functions of individuals, families, groups, and communities. And third, increase the social resilience of the community in dealing with social welfare problems. Improve the quality of management of the implementation of social welfare in order to achieve the independence of individuals, families, groups, and communities. And the last one, increase the ability and awareness of the community in the implementation of social welfare in an institutionalism and sustainable manner. Next slide. In this constitution, in this law, chapter 4 and chapter 5 is also regulated about what are the standards of the social workers and what practices are the social worker in Indonesia. The social worker practice, there are 5 kinds. The first one is prevention of social dysfunction, social protection, social rehabilitation, social empowerment, and social development. And social standards, there are 3 standards: standard operating procedures, standard social worker competency standards, and then the last one, service standards. It means that I think that this constitution is very well to regulate about the social work in Indonesia. They have told us about what is the meaning of the social work. It also regulate about the standard of social worker in Indonesia. And next slide, I want to tell us about the existence of social worker in Indonesia according to UNICEF data. Next slide. Okay, I hope you can see the picture. Can you see the picture?
Yeah, I can see, even though it's really small, but that's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry for this, but I will tell you about this data. According to UNICEF data, that there are 68,000 people who have worked in social worker in Indonesia. And then if we see the categories about the education level, there are 86% of degree work in social worker, but only 14% diploma. It talks about education level. 60% hold education relevant. I mean, it is relevant for their job, relevant to social work. And then 95% express a need for further training. I think it is very important for the government of Indonesia because it is a very big number. 95% express that they need more training. It means we are lack for training for social work in Indonesia. And the last one, 44 belong to professional association. But it's the bad one. Only 2% accredited with association professional social worker in Indonesia. I mean that the government of Indonesia must struggle how to make this number to increase. I mean, so that all the social worker can be accredited according to their qualification. Next slide. Okay, I think it is an opportunity for us as the young generation in Indonesia. We can see that the Minister of Social Affairs, as part of the government, has a mandate, has a task, has a function in the field of social welfare development. However, the government's ability through the Ministry of Social Affairs in dealing with social problems in the last 5 years has only reached 8% per year. In the total social welfare problems, which is around 15.5 million people. Meanwhile, we can see from the presentation that the number of social workers who directly practice social work is only 15,522 people. Indonesia still needs at least 139,000 social workers. I think it is some kind of dilemma for Indonesian government. we can see that the gap between the social number and the people in Indonesia is very large. It is an opportunity for me and for you and for the other young generation. We can use that social work is part of our job, and we have to take a role in this part. Next slide. Okay, Indonesian government has also, I have told you that, struggled to make the existence of social work can be more important in Indonesia. In developing innovative and competitive social work for social welfare, Indonesian government has make some kind of strategies. The first one, Indonesian government has struggled to make the stronger recognition of social work as a profession. It means that social work is also part of profession as reflected in law in Constitution of Indonesia, number 11, 2009, concerning social welfare, and also number 13, 2011, concerning handling of the poor, and law number 11, 2012, concerning juvenile criminal justice system. This has become a strong legal basis for the provision of the professional social workers in Indonesia. And the second, social workers will enter a new era, namely certification of competence of social workers and social welfare worker, which is facilitated by the government through the through the social work certification agency. And the third, the Minister of Social Affairs initiated the preparation of the academic paper and bill on social work practice. Next slide. Okay, Indonesian government strategy in increasing the existence of social workers in Indonesia. The first one, implementing legal reform, and the second, build networking with professional association, and the third, building an information system. We can see that we can access the information from p4s.kemensos.go.id, and the fourth, decentralization of the implementation of certification and accreditation, and the last one, improving the competence of social workers and RKS management. We can see that Indonesian government is really struggling to make the existence of social worker in Indonesia can be more increased. But you know that a few months ago we heard the corruption of our minister for social affairs. It is bad news for Indonesia. That's why we need more. We need the role of social worker, because sometimes, especially me, sometimes we have been skeptics for our government in helping their social needs for us. That's why we need the independent people to make the role can be more function. From this explanation, I conclude that social workers in Indonesia already have strong legality and have a strong juridical basis. It is from constitution. But Indonesia is still lacks of social workers. We need at least 139 social workers, but we just have 15,522 people. This is sometimes it is bad news for social condition in Indonesia, but also for young generation, we can feel that it is an opportunity for Indonesian young generation to take part in becoming a social worker. We don't be negative thinking about the social worker. We can see that Indonesia has struggled by juridical basis that it will be part of profession. And also I will tell us about the welfare of social worker in Indonesia. I think I don't put it in my presentation. In 2021, the salary, because there is the question about the salary, I think the first speaker, The salary rank of most workers in the professional counseling and social worker profession is started from 2.6 million to 14 million per month. It is a big number. It is much money, but don't think about the money. I think we think about the social condition of Indonesia. We have to take apart as the young generation. We have to take apart to have to take the responsibility. What can we do to make Indonesia better? I think that's all my presentation. I hope it can be useful for us. And if there is a question for me, you can type in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Julian, for the presentation. And I hope it feels like it's our knowledge from this presentation. And for all participants here, if you have a question, you could like text in the Zoom chat. Anyone or participant, do you have a question? Okay, maybe I would like to ask something. Yeah. As the presentation, we know like in Indonesia still low of the social workers, right? Especially in young generation. For your in your opinion, how do we make young generation in Indonesia aware of this problem?
Okay. Yep. Thank you. I think the first step we can use to make we can use to increase the awareness of social work in Indonesia for young generation. We have to change our mindset about the social works. Sometimes, especially Indonesian parents, just think about the jobs for the money. I think is it right? Because we also, if I work here, what can I get? But I think we can. I think it is the first perspective we need to change. And if we think about the salary, we can also that social work has have a big number. I've told you that the range of salary it's from 2.6 million to 14 million. But no, but many people, many young generation don't know about it. They just think about the luxurious clothes. Uh, how about the office? Sometimes it is difficult to change the mindset, but I think the Indonesian government has struggled to make it. And then in university, it's also important because Indonesia, besides Indonesia lack of number social worker, Indonesia is also lack of university to in measuring about social work. You got to mean, I mean Indonesia in University of Indonesia there are not many university provide for social works. That's why some people don't know about the social work. For, I think that before we discuss about this one, many of us don't know about what is social work. Many people that social work is like voluntary, but I think that the first speaker, Mr. Ketikun, have told us that it is not voluntary. That's why I think we have to change our mindset because and the last one, I think we can use the quote from one of the former president of in the United States, John F. Kennedy. Don't ask what your country can give for you, but ask what you can give for your country. Yep. Is there
Yeah.
any question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Julaikin. Yeah, I'm agree with you. The most important is changing our mindset, right?
Yeah, yep, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, because in Indonesia mostly, we always think like money it's important, but for me it's important is like experience from that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, and
I think there is a question from Mr. Albert Najwan.
yeah, yeah,
Is
it
there
was the
a
answer.
balancing the level of interest in experience?
Yeah.
Yep. I think actually I like talking about the corruption, but sometimes if we talk about the corruption in Indonesia, it is very complex. You know that maybe the leader, maybe the president wants to give 100, but because of too many instruments, we just receive 50, but we should receive 100. And then talking about the corruption, we know that one of our minister of social affairs is also one of the corruptor in Indonesia who has been changed by a minister of Tri Rismaya. I don't really remember her name, but I think that the corruption is. I hope nobody angry with me to talk about this. The corruption is also part of the culture in Indonesia. That's why sometimes we need to change it. If we talk about the corruption, when we have the Democratic Party, uh, it is the test for the people. I mean, how about the money politics? Do you still receive of the candidates? If you still receive, if you still think if there will be the Democratic Party, I will get the money. If there is the Democratic Party, I will get the money, 200 or 1 million. The corruption will be still in Indonesia. And talking about the solution, I just can the philosophy. I mean, philosophically, we cannot. If we talk about the constitution, I think Indonesian constitution is very well, but the implementation is the worst one. That's why it's always according to awareness of our people. But it is if we talk about yeah, I think the corruption is very complex. If we say that we need to change our mindset from university, from the child, from the school, but I think in our school have our teacher, our lecturer have told us that corruption is very challenge. It's very bad. It's the worst. But when we have the time to get it, to get the money, sometimes we fall up. Yeah, the real test is when we have an opportunity to make it. That's why I think we need to, yeah, sometimes we need the role of the social workers also, and the citizens of Indonesia.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jelaikin. That's helpful me to more understand about this problem. And yeah, the most important is like try to changing ourselves. Like yeah, it is to help our country also for the future to be a bit better, right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. To all participants here, if you have any question, you could ask to the speakers in Q&A session.
I think there is the new question from Mr. PP. Is it right?
Oh yeah. But maybe the question for Mr. PPA it will be like in the Q&A session.
Yep, yeah, yeah.
Is it
We
right?
need to, yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jelaikin, for the presentation. And then we will move to the last speakers, our speakers from Cambodia.
Do you hear me, Mr. Moderator?
Hello, yeah, I could hear your voice.
Yeah,
It's
because here it's my place is raining here because I need to change place.
could you hear my voice?
Yes, I hear you well. Do you hear me, right?
Yeah, I heard you also. And how are you, Mister?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much for today. Actually, I hear it seems like a bit different from the previous speaker. I have no slide presentation, as I have mentioned with the organized last night. Because I'm just here because I know that most of them are have the mention about the social worker. They are expert on the social worker, but for me, he just in to sharing the session about the social worker. I have some notes in my noting, and also giving the conclusion remark speaker to the all the participants in here. I'm really appreciate and really enjoy to join as a social worker like everyone here, and as many people, especially in the South Asian nation, that in the beginning they come and together enjoy their weekend, but most of us they still are gathering and to talk and to discuss about some issue and related to the social worker in our both country, Indonesia and Cambodia. My giving speech to all of you here regarding to maybe my definition regarding to the social work regarding to the volunteerism in Cambodia, and what Cambodia recognize all activity in Cambodia. Compromise and regarding to the master plan of the ASEAN 2020-15 and our ASEAN Connectivity Blueprint 2025. People connectivity, people mobility, and people oriented through supporting higher education, exchange cross ASEAN member state, ASEAN population, and also to all the ASEAN member to exchange the idea between the ASEAN member. We are here to share and to exchange our knowledge to each other. It can show that our young generation can be the next generation of the ASEAN, and to lead to ASEAN prosperity in the near future. By saying this, I can say that there are 600 61 points include member state. In that statistic, we can see that Cambodia is 16 million people, and Indonesia is the first or the top the most population in the ASEAN, 276 people, if I'm not wrong. So in my sharing session today to the audience and to the participant here, I divided to four main part. First one, I will talk about my definition regarding to the volunteerism social worker in Cambodia. Second, why we need social worker and attend to be the volunteerism in the social worker in the every country, ASEAN, although in the other region. The third one, I will talk about what are some benefits that they can join and worker in all the aspects. We talk about what Cambodia recognize and every activity of the citizen in Cambodia, that they are compromise with the covenant on civil and political rights in adopted by the UN in National Assembly. My first introduction to all of you is that in my mind, as I am volunteering and also joining a social work as a volunteering, and I can say that every activity and that are beneficial to the social work is for me called a social work, such as they are in helping in the like the brother Hannet said the front line, they help the people and they join to teach children in the province, something that in a remote. All those kind are the social work that they can help young generation, also the vulnerability group. In my country, there are some that I have mentioned, especially the Ministry of Education, that they are mostly the opportunity, willing or have passion to join the social worker, and then they can register as their volunteer in every provinces. And also the Ministry of Environment, that they are open for all the students for all the volunteers to join the talking session about the environmental protection as in Cambodia or also in the ASEAN as a whole, and also in other ministry. So in my point of view, it is essential for everyone and everybody, especially youth, to contribute their potential to the social development and social activity, and especially social engagement, to show that one society and they are full of active youth in and showing the growing of society, the full of next generation leader. And we can say that as one proverb said that youth is the backbone of the country and the next generation. We are here, we understand that we have the same willing to share. We are the same passionate to grow in our region as a whole. So in my third point, we talk about some experience in my life, and also the some benefit that I get from the joining social work. Like we understand that when we join, as we are here in the joining session, sharing session with each other, with both countries. Also, we are expanding our network with Indonesia and Cambodia, especially Cambodia youth and Indonesia youth to share our experience with each other, and how both countries overlook and perspective of our youth in both countries, and they share with each other. And also we can see that it can extend it or advance our career exploration with both countries, and also in Cambodia to strengthen their career and to develop especially a new skill, like our previous speaker have mentioned, like in the front mission, and also social work, like they have as a consultation in the school, also in the hospital, something like that. So those are that can advance their career and they can learn a lot of a new skill in their period of time. We can say that some some people that they might think joining as a social worker is may wasting their time, but it might be something wrong. But for me, personally, I think that it might be have fun with the various use in the various aspects and atmosphere from every country, that they come together and have fun with each other, and also the sharing, and also they learn with each other and sharing culture, and also This is the sign that show that the ASEAN as the one community, they can share with each other, exchange their culture and also their knowledge. When more social work with the social community, we most of people for them to stay knowledge and also they are feeling sometimes some people that they are lack of joining social work, they may have some easy to get a depression and also easy to get a stress in their personal time. But for the one who's are willing to share and willing to join the social worker, they are more effective and their work will be more successful than the one who are not joining was. So in the last point that I will talk what law or constitution of Cambodia recognize stated in every article in of our Cambodian constitution that I have mentioned seven article that I have mentioned that in the article 32 of constitution of Cambodia have mentioned that every Cambodian, every Khmer people have their right to freedom and personal security. It means that you are not overseen by other people, or you are not controlled by any institution or any government interfere in your personal time. And also in the article certified that mentioned that all the citizen, Khmer citizen, they are have right participant actively in the social work. So it means that Cambodia strongly recognize, strongly encourage citizen to join social work as actively every social work like our previous president have mentioned, all of those activities. And in the decision of Cambodia and also in the they have mentioned that the rights my citizens, they have right to obtain the social security and also social benefit from the social work. So it can show that a Cambodian government they are not a restriction to every citizen or every social worker to work any organization in Cambodia. And also in this article 36, they compromise with the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights that the General Assembly that the rights of everyone to social security, including a social insurance. Regarding to our topics, there are social insurance. So it can show that every even those in the future insurance welfare legality social worker, they are of Cambodia. And in the Kingdom of Cambodia, also the government of Cambodia that they have recognized every they have their right to be a member of the any other social work organization and also any activity that they can be come by the law in Cambodia. In the a few article in the Cambodia provides that they have their own duty to build or to be a part of national construction. So mean that national construction is referring to the social work, like every citizen that they are having or they are joining activity in Cambodia that they are determined by the law. Also, the kingdom, the Cambodian government, that they are not restrict to them, and also they give the insurance or they give the free of joining social worker, like I have mentioned, like the government of Indonesia, they are strongly encourage those social worker. So my last in the constitution that also to get or to protect the national achievement and the social order. It means that everyone in Cambodia, that the government of Cambodia, they recognize those rights respectively to all the citizens, and also with all the Cambodian, and especially the youth and the young generation. Any so in my conclusion to this to the social work and insurance, that we can say that there are many issues that Cambodia, the Ministry of Education, or the Ministry of with the team together to session to training the social, and also to find every one in every in Cambodia. There are 20. They the ministry work with the UNICEF to work and to have their own skill also in especially in Cambodia remote area. But we can say that in Cambodia it's still lack of the social worker in Cambodia, and especially in the remote area in the province. So as I have mentioned, we are now working together to strengthen and to build more social workers or develop contributing to the economic development in Cambodia. So here is my sharing session to all the participants today. So if you have any question regarding to my explanation or my sharing session, which welcome and to all of you. And thank you so much for giving me the floor today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to Mr. Sopa for the sharing and the presentation. And to all participants here, if you have a question, you could write in the text box, please. Okay, I can see the question from Mr. Albert Najwan. How about the religious organizations support or protect rights or the issues of the social workers in Cambodia? Is it works? Please to Mr. Sopa. Hello.
Thank you so much. Albert Nation. Thank you so much for the question. Regarding to the religious organization.
Mr. Sopa, maybe
Do you hear me,
could,
moderator?
Mr. Sopa, maybe you could turn off the camera. Is it okay? Okay. Hello, can you hear my voice, Mr. Sopa?
Yes. I hear you.
Okay.
Thank you. Regarding to the question, religious organization, support and protect the rights or the issue of the social worker in Cambodia. Yes. As religious organization in Cambodia, that they just have their their voice and to spread to every citizen in Cambodia and just to talk about the and to influence, especially when the religious group that they are talking about the Buddhist teaching and to the leader of Cambodia, and most of the leader that they are actually take some side to respect, especially because as we are here recognized as the Buddhism as the religious of the state. So when mostly Buddhist monks that they are teaching or those lessons to the mostly to the most leader in Cambodia, they have some part and to take side to reconsider and the rights or protection the rights of the people, or especially the social worker, and they are contributing to have some some contribution to have those kind of social worker too. So but is most of the idea or the solution to solve the problem is that in the hand of the government, but we are the religious organization. We can just influence us behind to those issue. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the answer to Mr. Sopa, and I hope it can answer the question from Mr. Albert Najuan. Thank you for the question, and then we will move to our Q&A session. I hope we are guys to wake up. Okay, as we will start to this session in Q&A session to all participants. If you have a question, you could write on below the text box and mention the speakers that you want that you want to ask something. Okay, I think it's from Mr. Chan Faibal Kim. It is to Indonesian speakers, I think. The question is, what are the benefits of social worker got in Indonesia? Please to Mr. Juliakin to answer the question.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. I forgot the name. Mr. Chanibul Kim. I will try to answer the question that I have told you in my I have told us that in my presentation that Indonesian government has struggled to increase the existence of social worker. We can see that Indonesian government have made the strong recognition of social work as a profession. It means that social work is also a profession in Indonesia. If we work, of course, we get the salary. I have told you that the range of salary for social work in Indonesia from 2.6 million rupees to 14 million. It is a big money actually. And also, of course, we have many networking if we join the social work. But in Indonesia, sometimes according to this according to this constitution, we cannot be categorize ourselves as a social worker if we have not passed the competency test. The constitution also regulated about there are three standards that we have passed to be part as the social worker. Of course, if we are the part of the social worker, we get the many benefits. We get the salary, we get the experience, we get the networking also. I think that's some of benefits of the social work in Indonesia. Thank you. How much dollar? Do you mean US dollar? Actually, I'm not really good in mathematics. Maybe Miss Aprilia can help me to times to the Indonesian rupees to US dollar, but I will try to times it. In Indonesian rupees, actually, it is a big money, of course, 14 million. You know that. I don't know how much does the lecturer get the salary in Indonesia, but I think sometimes it can be balanced with the social work, or maybe more than the lecturer if we can receive 14 million. But the important that it is a big number in Indonesia.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Joaquin. I hope it will answer the question from Mr. Fireball. And then I have a question. Okay, I will see.
Miss Aprila, sorry.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think there are two questions that I have an answer from Mr. PP and Mr. Rudy.
Oh, Mr. Pipi and Mr. Rudy also.
Yes. Can I answer now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. The first, I would like to answer the question for Mr. PP that I think basically social worker will work in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. Basically, it is unlikely that social workers will not understand the local government. We know that in Indonesia, I talked in Indonesia that to be a social worker, we have to pass the qualification. It means that we are under the Minister of Social Affairs, and also and also in Indonesia, the social work has a strong constitution basis and also has a strong juridical basis. It is in Constitution number 14, 2019. But I think that the local government and the social worker will work together. It is little. I think it is rare that the local government don't work together with the social worker, because the social worker also choose by the government to help the dysfunctional government to make the social needs to become true. You know, you know what I mean, that social work needs to help the local government. Therefore, they will work together, and also the social worker will work according to the constitution. Yep. I think in chat
Yeah.
box, Mr. Ketikun have calculated for the salary. If you want to work in social worker in Indonesia, you, but I don't know the qualification. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next can I still answer the question for Mr. Rudy? Do I still have time?
Oh, yeah, but we should see the before the question for the first, yeah, from Mr. Pongshe wrote to all speakers here, and then it will be to you. Is it right, Mr. Juliakin?
Yes, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
For the question is from Mr. Pongshe wrote. It's give some tip to encourage people to join social work. Yeah, it's to all speakers. And for the first, I will choose Mr. Ketekun to answer this question.
Okay. To answer this question, I would say I think it starts from like the upper organization first. So let's say the government and like the relevant parties should try to like promote the importance and essentiality of social work in Cambodia, because I believe that like many of us might not recognize like how important and what are the benefits of participating in social work as a profession, and they might not say, oh, it might not be important enough, and they say, oh, I'm not really feeling empowered to actually be a part of this profession. So I guess that can be one way that the nation, in this case Cambodia, can promote the importance of social work in Cambodia. And another suggestion is that we can try to like see, okay, let's say in Cambodia, the main and the most important part of social work is like being the frontline worker. And as we can see that there are like numerous active cases in Cambodia on a daily basis. And from what I see in the news, there has been like many volunteers, especially those who are in the medical field, let's say in their university years, they try to work hands in hands to assist all the social worker out there, because like Indonesia, there are still shortage of social worker in various areas within the country. And to complement with that, we I believe Cambodia can try to like promote like the certification and qualification of like social work. In this case, people who are interested in the field, they can pursue their prerequisite requirement or any like necessary qualification that they need to fulfill before they become an official and certified social work. That can be another way that they can involve themselves in this field as well, because as I said, like if there is no proper certification process, even though those who are passionate to join this field, they cannot be officially recognized as social worker. So that will be my response to this question. But if I miss any point or other speaker want to add anything else, feel free to do so.
Okay, thank you for the answer from Mr. Ketekun. I hope it answered the question from the participant before. And then I will choose the second speakers is Mr. Sopa. All right, Mr. Could you hear my voice?
Yes, I hear you.
The question is, give some tip to encourage people to join social work.
Thank you so much. The interesting question that how do we encourage or motivate those people to join social workers? And in my opinion, I think that to encourage them is to show the potential, or to show how the social work contributed to themselves and also to family, and especially to the society. When they understand the benefit or the contribution to themselves, and especially to society, they are automatically willing to join the social work, and also they have um, um, they are loving to join very often. And one more thing is that to encourage them is that as we are living in the world and also living in the context of the ASEAN as a whole, as being the one community, one society. So we encourage those people to join our sharing session on, and also to join any social worker to exchange the idea between state and state, and between youth and youth, to understand what is the perspective between youth and across our region, and also to meet the our goal in the ASEAN, and also as I have mentioned, the ASEAN Master Plan Connectivity 2015. That is the goal of ASEAN as a whole, to our region, especially to our government, to connect with each other and can share with each other. This is my opinion to the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chopa, to the opinion. Thank you so much. And then the last, we will hear the opinion from Mr. Juliakin. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Aprilia. I think the tips that we need to encourage the people to work in social worker. The first one is, actually we don't need any tips if we want to increase our patient. If we ask the other tips, that it means that we don't really believe to work in social work. So don't work in social worker because of the people, but because of our awareness that social work is very important in my country. Therefore, that don't think about don't also think about the benefits, because the benefits will come when we do everything well. I mean, hardly we work in effectively, and also that don't think about people opinion about the social work, because sometimes we are not confident to work in social worker because of people's opinion that you will you will waste your time. Our time is we don't have much time to work to make ourselves to be richer. But the first thing that life is not always about getting, but sometimes life is not always about getting, but sometimes it's also talk about giving. I think it's the tips for me, but I think it's not tips, right? We don't have any tips to increase our patient. I think that's my answer. But if you want to Indonesia, you get the salary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Juliakin, for the opinion. Oh, I saw on this text post, Mr. Fible very excited to calculate the money of US and Indonesia. Okay, thank you, Mr. Fible, to calculate the money of both country.
Sorry, miss, but it's actually start from 2.6 million, not 14, but it is start from 2.6 million. So don't think too much about the money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Juliakin. And then we will move to the next question is from Mr. Albert Najwan, to all speakers here. Which one, the majority in your country, that they prefer be a social worker or other type of workers? As we know, the social worker is really important to serve the society. So how we can make sure the balance of the social worker distribution or requirement and how the government and enthusiasts to participate as the social worker. What do you think about that? Okay, the first I will choose maybe Mr. Julaikin. Are you ready? You are smiling.
Okay, yeah, I
Okay.
will try to answer the question. In Indonesia, social work has been regulated as part of profession. So if you want to be a social worker, don't think too much about the compensation for your job, because Indonesian government has regulated in constitution to in constitution in constitution about social work as part of profession. And if there were several parts that Indonesia really need in social worker. The first one is poverty parts. Indonesia is also one of the development country. That's why there was still many poverty in Indonesia. Therefore, Minister of Social Affairs need the poverty parts in social worker. And the second is natural disasters. It is also the important one, because Indonesia is also has, especially recently in this year, that there were so many natural disasters in Indonesia. And the third one is about the rehabilitation for the drugs, because Indonesia is also the big number of the drug people who has drug. And the last one is social worker in social welfare. As the information maybe for the friends in Cambodia, in pandemic situation, in COVID-19 situation, the Minister of Social Affairs also give like compensation for the workers, for the poor people, by social worker in social welfare. That's why there is like a card, we call it kartu perlindungan sosial. In Indonesia, we call it kartu perlindungan sosial or kartu keluarga sejahtera. It's like card for social protection. So I think it is really important in this part in Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Juliakin. And then we will move to the second speaker to answer the question is Mr. Sopa, please. Hello, Mr. Could you hear my voice? I cannot hear your voice.
Can move to the brighter side.
Hello, maybe you can try to unmute again.
Hello, do you hear me? Everyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry for interruption, because in here is a bit raining, so that's why my connection is slow. So in my opinion regarding to the question, what is the major key in my country, be a social worker or the type of other workers, I can say that, and as I have mentioned, that is the social worker in my country still a lack of the participant, and also I have mentioned the Ministry of Social Affairs. They are working with UNICEF to training those kinds of youth to join actively in the social work. And yes, we understand that when we are joining, most of our youth join the social worker, they mostly and exactly clear that it contributed to the to preserve our society and to serve much more prosperity in our society and also our region as a whole. And regarding to the government of Kingdom Cambodia, or the government of Cambodia, that I mentioned many law. They have recognized and guarantee of those activity effectively in my society, and also our government encourage those people to act actively in society, and especially in social work, in social development, and also contributing their potential to our social development. So this is I can say that most of our government that they are trying to encourage those social workers to be a part of our society. I think it might be answer to your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asopa, for to the answer. And then we will move to the last speakers. He is Mr. Katakun, please.
Okay, thank you. So I would say in Cambodia, based on what I can see, people tend to like be employed in mostly the private sector rather than like involving themselves in the social work profession. And regarding the second part of the question, I would say I share very similar thought to vulnerable support as well. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add because vulnerable support already like mentioned most of them. And I think the only thing that I can say is we can, I think it starts from like ourselves as well. If we are committed to be a part of the social work profession, go for it. Like sometimes the compensation benefit might not be everything. Like it might be the sole reason for some people to participate in this, but if your goal is to like help people and like be genuinely happy in your profession, feel free to go for it. Yeah, that would be my stance on this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Katakun. And I hope all people here will wake up. And then we will move to new question. Anyone to ask something, question to all speakers here? Wait. To all participants, do you have any questions?
Hello, Miss April. I think I have one question I can deliver directly to the speakers.
Okay, please.
May I?
Yeah, please,
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah, thank you. I think I just want. I wanna know about the what is the policy in Cambodia, because in Indonesia, I think I also know about the government policy in social worker issues. My question is there in Cambodia have a social protection card like in Indonesia we have BPJS in ketenagakerjaan in what is workers yeah and then in health service like Obamacare in in USA, you know, is there have any similar card like that Cambodia, and how the what is running or make a function to the society in there. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Please to all speakers to I will listen to Mr. to answer the question.
Do you hear me clearly, moderator?
Oh yeah, I can hear your voice.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Again,
thank
to
you.
the similarity to the social worker card is in Cambodia they have the social I mean the certificate letter of the guarantee of one family that they are poor, and then they can get low cost and on, and also sometimes we can say they are no cost to get to get the healthcare in the public, especially in some hospital in Cambodia. It's similar to like social, but in regard to the social card to cost this, it might be different. But in Cambodia, I can say it's like the a certificate letter to guarantee one family that they are poor and that they can get a free access to the hospital services. So if brother Pandit have anything to add, so please.
Thank you, Venerable Sapa. I believe I have like no more points to add from my side as well, because what I have in mind is also the same to what Venerable Sapa has mentioned earlier too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Mr. Juliakin could answer the question. And for the last team, Mr. Ketakun.
Sorry, do you mean the question from Mr. Gianni?
Yeah, from Mr. Janli.
Sorry, Miss, but I think the question is for the Cambodia, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. I'm so sorry. And then how about Mr. Ketakun?
I actually stated earlier that I also have the same thought as Venerable Sapa too. So I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you to all speakers here. I'm so sorry. Maybe I'm sleepy. Okay. Okay, is it enough, Mr. Janli, to the answer to from Cambodian speaker?
Yes, I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone have a question to all participants?
I think Mr. Victor has a question for Mr. Juyakin related to salary and inflation in Indonesia.
Oh, is it conversation from Mr. Fibo and Mr. Jenly before on the text box?
Yeah, I think the question is, may you tell about salary and inflation in Indonesia? Does salary survive enough for social worker if compared to living costs? I think that was Mr. Whitball question.
Oh, okay. Okay, and maybe to Mr. Fibo, it's only for Indonesian speaker or to all speakers here? Okay. I think it's only for Indonesian speakers, right? Okay, to Mr. Julaikian, does salary survive enough for social worker if compared to living cost?
Yep, thank you. I think that it's enough to survive in Indonesia for social worker. If we compare to 2.6 million to until 14, it's a big money actually. But Indonesia also has a regional minimum wage, or in Indonesia we call it upah minimum regional, UMR. It means that there is a minimum wage for Indonesian workers. Like in Jakarta, maybe around 4 million, 4 million or 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 4 million per pass, and then in Medan maybe around 3 million. But it also depends on where we live, because in Indonesia all the province is not same because the salary for the living is also different. Sometimes maybe in but it's a long time ago. Long time ago in Papua is richer than Jakarta, but today I think Indonesian government in the era of the president of Joko Widodo has made the social justice, and also I think it's enough to survive in Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Julaikin, to answer the question for participant here, and I would like to say thank you to all speakers. I think it's enough for the Q&A session. I would like to say thank you to Mr. Sopa from Cambodia, and thank you also to Mr. Juliakin and Mr. Katakun from Cambodia. Also, I hope you're still healthy, and thank you for the presentation. It helped. Yeah, thank you for thank you for the presentation. I'm sorry if I was like make something mistakes before on this session. I hope you are still healthy and full of happiness and stay safe. And I will give the next session to our MC, to Mr. Janly Emmanuel, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss April, for the time. Okay, we will, before we close with a photo session, our webinar session today, we will listen to closing remarks from Miss Tifo, the Rome International Representative, to Miss. Time is yours. Miss Tifo, you there? Okay.
You ask me?
Yeah, no. Miss Tifo, I mean.
Okay, I'm so sorry for it's kind of bad connection, so I couldn't turn my cam on. Okay, can you please repeat what did you say? Because I was just kind of a bit awake.
Yeah, I think we invite Miss Tifo to deliver the remarks for close this webinar session today.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much to the Mr. of ceremony, to Mr. Jelly. Okay, I'd like to conclude from what already the speaker said from Mr. Peng Sofa, from Mr. Katekun Hanif, and from Mr. Julia Kinson. Because I have concluded that the social workers are very important roles because they immediately contribute to the society. And as probably Mr. Juliakin said that the social worker welfare here are still are still not guaranteed because some people probably like the classical parent minded, they would think that the social worker's salary is not really worth it because social worker are just working for society and um, they don't have a really high salary. As Mr. Ketakun Panik said that social worker probably included the voluntary things, but it's not only about the voluntary things because what we contributed, what we contribute to the society, it's included the social working. So from this session, I'd like to say thank you so much to all speakers for giving such a really insightful information and knowledge to all of us. And I hope from what the speakers already told us that can give an insight and such an eye opener for us to be more aware of the social workers' privilege, social workers' protection and rights for to optimize social workers' roles in the society. And thank you so much for your attention. I will give the floor back to the MC, Mr. Jiangli.
Okay, thank you very much for the closing remarks, Miss Tifal. I think we already in the end webinar. We will take a photo session. Invite to all the participants to open your video and we take a photo session together. Okay, is there, yeah. I invite to all the participants to join the photo session. Okay. Okay, wait, yeah. About Mr. Sanfibol or Miss Mira, Miss Karisma, Mr. Cole, or Miss Fiona. Okay, yeah. 1, 2, 3. Okay, again. 1, 2, 3. Wait. Okay. 1, 2, 3. The last 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's enough. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you for all the speakers. Thank you to Mr. Katakun, Mr. Sopa, Mr. Julian for joining us in this webinar session. I hope all your valuable and insight sharing with us can give the more benefits to all the participants. Again, thank you very much and see you in the next opportunity. Keep in touch and stay safe. Good afternoon, all.
Bye, everyone. Take
Bye,
care. Stay
everyone.
safe.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Stay
Stay
safe.
Thank you, Kak Mira, Kak Karisma, for joining, Kak Albert.